day is this?
It's Mail It In Friday.
Yeah, well, the dude abides.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, up on YouTube Live. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
I'm floored.
I don't know what to say about what happened today.
Well, we'll get to that. I just heard something as a guy walked out the door. AB said, I might be in on the marathon. And I was like,
I
what?
didn't hear that.
Did you not hear it?
So,
4 seconds ago, you were saying, welcome to OverDrive. He leans over. I'm locked eyes with him. He goes, I might be in on the marathon.
wow, that is actually breaking news
Yeah,
that people
that's
care
actually...
about. Like, that's actually substantial news that will do serious numbers.
Huge number.
Because Al's brother, who we just saw, and he looks great, and it's great to see him as always. Threw that out yesterday, I think it was, right? Because this marathon 10K thing is getting carried away. The amount of people writing me who are legitimately insulted by calling a 10K a marathon.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting legitimate.
Well, it is, because people who run, that's a warm-up for them.
I understand that.
It's not.
It's all relative. For us, it's a marathon.
Yes, it is a marathon.
All right, it counts. Like, for us, it's a marathon. A lot of people that play beer league hockey, beer league baseball, whatever. For them, it's the major leagues, the National Hockey League. That's what the 10K is for us.
Yeah.
Threw out the idea of Al's brother being involved in the race, and I just completely blew past that. I said, let's not get stupid. We're trying to figure this out and make it work. But to get it from Al's brother that he is possibly intrigued, maybe it's a kilometer from AB.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe he starts the race or he brings it home with us.
Yeah.
That could be it.
See that?
Maybe Al's brother gives us 500 meters out of the gate and then meets us at the end for the final 500.
For the photo op. That's what he is.
The photo op.
Yeah,
He gets started, and then he comes across the line.
It should be. I mean, I'd love to see it. I heard about it. I've been calling games and stuff, so I've missed the last couple shows, but I keep hearing this either couch to 5K, couch to 10, or whatever.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're really doing it.
And for AB to drop that, and listen, I know we need to get to breaking news. We need to get to what the Leafs did. All of
That's
that
breaking news, though.
That was breaking news for me.
I'm telling you, the amount of people down at Studio 6, which is the main studio here at TSN, buzzing about this 10K that O and I are going to run, the amount of people that want to be included, the amount of people that want to jump on board and possibly push us in that direction. I don't think I can get out of it now.
Yeah.
I saw O in some very revealing clothing today. I wouldn't suggest that's a body type that screams 10K.
That was outrageous, too.
Yeah.
The ping pong.
Playing ping pong against Marty with a high socks and a tight, short short.
And the pants were...
His side boiler was out.
Very revealing, put it that way. I had a back view of that.
Yeah, there he is. Look at this cat. Look at his...
There was ass crack left and right, like staring at me.
Yeah.
Because I'm standing behind him.
Right. Oh, yeah. Dude, look at this guy's literally, his ass is on TV.
National TV.
There's no other way to put it. Like, that's a heavy hitter television program here at Bell Media, and the O-Dog is flashing the country.
Yeah.
So we got a lot to get to today. Brad Treliving will join us. Nazem Kadri, this just came in. Nazem Kadri is heading to the Colorado Avalanche, according to Chris Johnston.
Interesting.
So this is the amazing thing about the trade deadline. And I don't know why this happens, but it has been consistent the last couple of years. All the biggest deals happen after 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Well after 3 p.m.
So it leads me to believe that the queue is like one person.
Can we not get more people working the queue?
Yeah, like you should be able to. Every team should have a number and go, like Calgary trades Nazem Kadri to Colorado, I'm reading. They should have a designated line.
Right, a Calgary
line calling into this line to get it into so that they're not waiting. You're 86. It's like trying to get through to an airline.
Especially when other teams are wasting people's time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trading a minor leaguer for a conditional 7th in 2032. And you're like, can you get out of the way?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're trying to have a massive blockbuster trade, and you're right. There's a minor league deal done, and they're in the queue trying to dot the I's and cross the T's.
Wow, we talked about it extensively today. You and I did panels on it.
Yeah.
I did stand-ups. You guys did it with Gino in the back. Kadri had to be traded.
Right.
Because it had gone public that he wanted to be traded.
Right.
Right? Like, that had been reported on. Not that it wasn't anything anti-Calgary or anything like that. It was he knew where they were going, where he is in his career, and he had concluded it was in his best interest. And I think especially when Mackenzie Weegar gets traded to Utah,
yeah,
Huberdeau's hurt for the year. Like, the veterans around him aren't going to be there. Yeah. And again, we'll see what the return is. And I got to give credit to Colorado because now look at their middle ice. McKinnon, Nelson, Kadri, Nick Waugh.
Yeah.
Like, they trade. I got to think Calgary now is a little bit complicated because Kadri's contract is longer. It has more money. But if Colorado gave up a 1st and a 5th for Waugh, I would think Kadri has more value than him.
It's probably, I would think the return would probably be that or more. And keep in mind, to make money work, Calgary might have to take something back. Who knows, right? So I think that's why you want to wait for all the stuff to trickle out. But you're right. I did the game in Calgary last night. Nazem Kadri, you could tell, and rightfully so. He's a human. And you're sitting on pins and needles going, is today the day? You're probably talking to your agent. I walked into the rink at 4:45. He was sitting in his car on the phone. You have to wonder if he's getting one last phone call in going, am I playing tonight or what are we doing here type of thing. It weighs on your family. It weighs on everything. And to be honest, he played like it last night. He looked a little distracted. But, Colorado got themselves a real good player. And I would argue, depending on what we know what the return is, Calgary is heading in a different direction. They probably got picks and a player or whatever. And some tidy work for Craig Conroy.
Well, and what goes around comes around, right? Kadri goes back to where he won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And this team, I don't know if they're as good as the team from a few years ago, but I would think they're pretty close.
They feel good about it.
They're the first-place team overall in the league.
Here's the other thing. If you're Chris McFarland, too, the manager of Colorado, you're watching Bill Guerin just go, hey, he's bringing in player after player. Like, I think Minnesota grabbed Robbie Fabry off waivers.
Yes,
was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Trading for players. He made the trade of the year for Quinn Hughes. You already had Kaprizov and Boldy and Faber. And, they've got a wealth of riches. I've said this all along. As much as I like Colorado, I think Minnesota is a
They're a wagon.
And guess who else is there? The Dallas Stars. And Dallas has won 10 in a row for fun. Mm-hmm. Just blowing teams out.
And Rantanen's hurt. Rupe Hintz has been sick.
Yeah.
Like, they're two best forwards, arguably, not even playing.
Yeah.
And they're just rolling through teams. So we'll see what else comes out because, I concluded when we came over here, we walked over here about a half an hour ago. It was a dreadful day in terms of activity. There just wasn't a lot that happened. And we knew and we know, based on past experience, post 3 p.m., there's going to be more deals coming in. This Kadri trade is clearly an example of that, and I'm sure there's going to be more. But it, to me, felt as if today there weren't enough teams that really grabbed the bull by the horn. Yeah. Like you mentioned Minnesota. Obviously, you go out and get Quinn Hughes. Yeah. It's a massive, massive statement.
Right.
Vegas could probably put their hand up and say, we got Rasmus Anderson a month ago.
Right.
Maybe a couple of other teams. But on a day like today, where I thought a Buffalo, a Detroit, maybe a Montreal,
teams that are hungry,
like
to get
hungry
to that
and
next
are
level.
in,
and are seeing
and
that
have
it's kinda
picks
wide
and
open.
prospects. They have collateral to make deals.
Keep in mind, the Stanley Cup champions are not going to be there.
Right. Florida's done. They're out.
It's going to be wide open for somebody. There's going to be a new Stanley Cup champion this year.
Yes.
Which hasn't been the case for the last couple of years.
Right.
The Stanley Cup. Now, I actually stopped myself there because I said, the Stanley Cup's leaving Florida. I don't think,
Tampa's still in a pretty good spot.
Well, and here's the scary part. I joked about it. They just got Corey Perry. Does that guarantee them to get to the finals at least?
Possibly lose, probably lose, but still get there.
But you look at it like that's Florida's off the table now. So it is wide open. There's going to be a new Cup champion this year. Don't you think that's a little bit of a carrot for an organization?
I figured so. And I honestly think there's going to be regret from some. And these teams made some moves. Like Detroit got Justin Falk, good player.
Yeah.
But it's one player. Buffalo made the Jets deal. And obviously they tried to make other deals, and it didn't go their way.
Right.
Montreal has not really done anything.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they got to know. Like, I'm trying to think if they did anything else that. Now, here's a thought process on Montreal. I think if you had them in a candid moment, they're saying we're building. We don't see us as in the top. We see ourselves a level below.
Right, and ascending upwards.
Exactly. And maybe we're not one player away from being there, but maybe that's they let this group play it out and then assess in the offseason and go, we needed this, or we got more experience. Demidov's a year older.
Right. I just look
Lane
at
Hudson, all of that.
Well, and that's reasonable, and I think that's what's happened.
Right.
Where a lot of these, teams that kind of made the dance. I look at Anaheim now. They picked up John Carlson. That's a really intriguing move.
It is.
And we'll see what else happens here. But like, they're new to the dance. Utah jumped in. Seattle obviously picked up Bobby McMahon. Like, teams have made individual moves.
Right.
But it felt like, to me, there was an opportunity today for a team to say, we're going to just, it's going to cost us a lot, but we're going to grab like 2 or 3 big guys.
Especially if you've got cap space and currency. You've been banking that
we're
for
going
many
for
years.
it here.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, the sellers in Toronto, they trade Bobby McMahon to Seattle, and they get a second and a fourth.
Yeah.
Scott Lawton to LA for a third that's conditional. If they make the playoffs, it turns into a second.
Yeah.
So it's Nick Waugh for picks, Bobby McMahon for picks, Scott Lawton for a pick. So they've acquired picks. I think the Lawton deal is one that I know the reaction is going to be mismanagement of asset. You paid that much for him last year, and now you're paying what you are this year.
Right.
I look at it differently because you had to move off the player.
Yes.
And if pride kicks in, or ego kicks in, or insecurity as a manager, and you say, well, I'm not going to do that because it's going to make me look bad.
No.
That's worse management, in my opinion.
I don't think
you
Brad
had to
Treliving-
move off Scott Lawton. You had to.
I don't think Brad Treliving's like that. I think he does what's best, what he believes is best for the organization. You're right. Lawton, if it ends up being a second rounder, he paid a first rounder.
Yeah, and Gulbenkian is not a player in the NHL.
I get in trouble all the time
but
when
he's
I've
not.
talked
He's
about
not going to be a long-standing player.
I
in the league. Yeah.
My argument, and I said this to some hockey people the other day, Gulbenkian is a Russian player. How many fourth-line Russian players do you know in the NHL? Not many, because they go back to the K. So it's always a crapshoot there. But, first turns into a second. Cost of doing business, you went all in last year because you thought you had the team, and you had a really damn good team last year. And this year, it hasn't gone the way that you envision. So you're right. I think Brad Treliving goes, I can get a second out of it. Couldn't get the first. But to be honest, if this was swapped, let me ask you this. If he got a first for Lawton and a second for Waugh, you go, not bad.
Well, and I think ultimately, yes.
Because I didn't see a first for Waugh.
I wasn't sure he would get that based on the way he's played this year. Now, Lawton, again, you got to just be honest about it. Scott Lawton has kind of struggled, and he hasn't been given a ton of opportunity here.
Right.
But he wasn't, the reality is it was an overpay last year to Philly. That's just what it was. They felt they needed another center. They paid it.
Yeah.
He didn't really fit in. This year he fit in more. He certainly had a role. There was some redundancy there with Waugh and Lawton both in your lineup. They moved off both.
Yeah.
So, listen, what has become clear here, because Ekman Larson stuck around, and I'm fine with that because you had to set a price on him, and if it wasn't met, then fine, we'll meet you at the draft or
got
next
him on
year.
term. Yeah.
He's got 2 years left. He's a good player. He wants to be here. I've got no problem with that. I don't think I would have liked to have seen them capitalize on his value.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they couldn't. Like, I am surprised the team didn't step up and say, that's a really valuable player. I'll pay your price.
Right.
But it speaks to what's happening throughout the league. Now, maybe he is being dealt right now. We don't know it. I don't get that impression.
The trickle-in effect.
But I'm surprised no one stepped up and paid the price for Ekman Larson, but it's consistent with the way kind of everything has gone through. And if you look at the board here, McMahon, Lawton, Waugh out, a first and 27, a second and 27, a third and 26 that could turn into a second, a fourth and 26, and a fifth and 26. So, you've brought in 5 picks.
You brought in some currency that you could either.
And I think they got to use these picks.
Well, you have to draft, and
yeah,
you have
got
to develop.
draft players.
Keep in mind, there's a lot of people that track the Marlies. They're not stocked with blue chip prospects right now. Again, because of where this organization has been the last 10 years. You've had to, trade picks and prospects going all in at the deadline. This is the first year. This is unique for you and I and for a Leaf fan and this city, because it's always been, this team is good. Let's give them an opportunity at the deadline. Going back, where did this all start? Was it Nick Foligno? And then he came in and had the back injury. Like, they've been going in is the wrong word, but they've been very proactive at the deadline.
Aggressively pushing.
Aggressive.
Yes.
For quite some time. Eventually, when it comes to fruition, you're like, okay, we got to restock the cupboards.
Yes.
And that's what they're doing.
Well, Foligno was the year before they went out and got O'Reilly and Achari.
Exactly.
And they
it all
kept going.
melts together.
It all melts together, but they've been doing it for a long time.
Right.
Now, I will say, from these deals, because no one else was traded outside of pending UFAs, Nick Waugh notwithstanding, he's got a year left on his deal. I still don't know what direction they're taking this team in. Yeah. And we'll ask Treliving this next hour. And we'll see how much clarity he's willing to give us, or how much he's willing to answer. But that is, really at the core of every Leaf fan's chat right now with their friends and with anyone online or whatever. What are you going to do? Because they're sinking like a stone this year. Yeah. We know it's over. I think you got to prepare for it to get really ugly down the stretch.
Right.
They got pumped by New York last night. They have been lifeless post-Olympic break. Craig Berube, I have to believe, is feeling some insecurity right now. It's not good with the way they're playing, the way it's going. He's yelling at them. They don't even look like they're paying attention to him. It's ugly. It's an ugly scene, and you got 18, 19 more games. It's going to remain ugly. Their first-round pick owned by Boston, top 5 protected. Can they get into the bottom 5? It's very difficult, but if you lose 14 or 15 of your next games, you'll be real close to it.
Yeah.
Can you win a lottery? Possibly, but then you're kicking that down the can. Boston gets the pick next year. Philly's got your pick next year, which would roll over to the next year.
Yeah.
You're kind of just moving it further down the road. But what are you going to do here? What is Brad Treliving and the Maple Leafs? What are they going to do? Are you going to retool? Are you going to put these picks back in play and try to acquire a defenseman? They obviously they need centermen now.
Right.
Like Lawton and Waugh are gone.
Yeah.
John Tavares is a 3. They need a second-line center, a fourth-line center. They haven't changed the defenseman. That's another thing that sticks out today. This defense core is old, slow. They're on term. They have played very poorly this year, and none of them were moved.
Yeah, I think the bigger
What
picture,
else are you going to do here?
It's funny because when I look at it, if you had to say, tell me the most consistent defenseman this year, it's been
Ekman-Larsson.
Correct.
Undoubtedly.
So they kept him. And I think really, it's not even the elephant in the room. I think they look at Morgan Riley's situation in the offseason and say, that's the starting point. And then what does that look like? What does Morgan want? Because he controls that situation. And then you kind of have a domino effect after that. If Morgan wants to move on and you decide mutually to move on, then it's, what's Chris Tanev's situation?
That's it. That's complicated.
And then into Brandon Carlos' situation and Benoit and Myers, it really trickles down. But I do believe if I had, kind of a wish list right now, I think the goaltending can be stable. We've seen it. Wasn't good. It hasn't been consistent this year. They've had injuries, all that type of stuff. But if you believe that position and then you throw in Hildeby, there still has to be a decision made there because Hildeby needs waivers next year. I don't think he'd make it through. So you got to decide on one there. The forward group, it's a mixed bag. But you do have Austin and Willie, which are 2 top-tier players. John Tavares on term, who, regardless of what you feel he is, pretty darn consistent point producer. But you said slide to a 3.
Yep.
You've got Matthew Nyes on term. And then some other, respectfully, other players. Max Domi, you've got Michelli, you've got...
All those guys are still here.
Right. So the question is, do you start with the D first and then revamp and then start to reshape around those players we just talked about? Or is it in the offseason, you're going to move a key piece and really kind of retool around Austin Matthews or Austin. And I guess the key piece would either be Willie or Austin.
It's two guys that you got to determine.
And if those aren't on the table, then it's the Boston mantra with Pasternak, right? Like
you're staying, and everyone else is
in play, and we're going to reshape it around you too.
Yeah. Well, and what also became clear, and again, it's not a surprise based on the whole market. Like, I'd love to yell and scream and say, I wish they got more. I do wish the Leafs found a way to get more. I wish they traded more. But not a lot has happened in the league today. A lot of GMs just played it tight to the chest. But what is clear is if they could have moved Yarncroke, Lorentz, Benoit, they would have.
Right.
Like, you'd take a fifth-round pick for those guys, more or less. Maybe Benoit's different because of the position he plays. He's on term and he's cheap. But Calle Yarncroke, you would literally trade for a sixth or seventh-round pick. No one wants him. Like, no one's taking him.
Because every team
has
those players.
Yeah, it has a Calle Yarncroke. Why would you pay currency? But that's the issue is, like, Nick Robertson's still here. So what are you going to do with him? Steven Lorentz is still here. He's on term. What are you going to do with him?
Yeah.
There's obviously other players that they have to figure out on. They've got to turn some of this defense core over. But these were the guys they had to move. You had to move off McMahon. He was a great story.
Yeah.
It came out of nowhere, East Coast League.
And keep in mind, if, again, this is cart before the horse. If he goes to Seattle and has success, he's going to sign with somebody else. He might say in the offseason, this is what I've got, and I would like to come back, again.
Absolutely. On the table to do that.
If it
doesn't usually happen.
I understand. But there is things that you have to take a look at. But I think this is the beginning of, the retool. You did what you had to do as far as pending free agents. The Waugh deal was there. You have to take that Nicholas Waugh deal.
Yeah, you get
it's a first rounder.
Yeah.
And
another pick.
And you've given first rounders not away the last couple of years. You get one back. Like, to me, I thought that was a home run for Brad Treliving. So now it's more about, what do you do moving forward? And what is the thought process? Like, what is the mantra? They play tomorrow, correct, against Tampa?
Yes.
Like, obviously, Craig Berube, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, they're trying to win, like the guys that are playing. But does Brad Treliving want them to drop in the standings so that they get a better draft pick? Or, problem is, if top five protected, I just don't know if you can get there.
Listen, it's not going to be easy. Like, there's certain teams you're not, quote-unquote, catching. You're not catching Vancouver. I don't think you're catching the Rangers, but the Rangers beat you last night.
That was an uninspired effort. That was weird.
The Leafs were awful last night. But it's not like the Rangers were great. But the Leafs, even after that loss, they're 9 points up on New York.
Yeah.
They're 9 up on Chicago. The team that is currently fifth from the bottom is Winnipeg, and the Leafs are 5 points up on them. That is not out of the realm of possibility.
No.
That with 19 games to go, you lose enough where you drop to fifth. It's possible. Is it likely? Probably not.
Unless you're Chevy. Like, the thing is you get a nick, you're shut down type of thing. Like a little,
yes.
Boo-boo
well, I think I wonder if Florida's going to do that because Florida's below them.
Right.
And Florida, I believe their first round pick is somewhere, but it's top 10 protected.
Yeah.
Nashville, they still might think they can make the playoffs. That's the weird thing. The Sharks, the Kings, the Preds, they're all around them.
That's a dogfight.
They think they might be able to still get in, so maybe they're still, pushing towards making the playoffs.
Right.
So if you're the Leafs, again, it's not going to be easy to do. It'll certainly not be fun to watch, but it's not out of the realm of possibility they could drop close enough to fifth, where at a minimum you're going to get an all-time sweat for that lottery.
Right.
Like, Leaf fans, you talk about sweating it out because there is a legit chance here they either win the lottery and keep the pick or hand over like the 7th pick in the draft to Boston.
Bruins.
Yes. Like that's kind of what they're facing right now.
There's some really good players available. Talking to Craig about the draft. Like, this draft seems to be, it may not be like generational players, but really good players.
Well, and that's where if you get depth in a draft, you got to get back in. You got to get those second-round picks.
Right.
Third-round picks.
Yeah.
Yes, they're not going to play for you in the next 3, maybe 4 years. But what we've learned here is time goes quick, man.
Yeah.
Like, the Leafs will still be playing in 4 or 5 years. Like, we had not an argument. We had a great conversation about the Leafs on the panel today. And, the Matthews stuff, he's struggling right now.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be able to acknowledge that. They're all struggling, everybody.
Yeah, they're not playing to their capability.
Way down my list in terms of concerns or issues in terms of how they got to this position. But he hasn't played well. Willie's not playing well. Tavares is slowing down. Riley's slowing down. But, for the longest time, it felt like this team, and in a way, the fan base was, so connected to the core four and the best players. And there was always this anxiety. Like, are you going to keep them? You got to keep them. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What's the contract going to look like? And now you're 10 years in and you have nothing to show for it. Why would you continue with that approach? In other words, why do you feel like you're beholden to Matthews and or Willie to retool or go all in and try to get back into the dance just because they're under contract?
Well,
like, why do you, like, you know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Like, the Leafs are who you're building, not
right.
Matthews and Nylander and their legacy as Leafs.
You're right. But the question that I would ask in retort to that is, if you believe that those are the guys that you can build around.
Which I still do believe they can be a big part of
we've
it.
We've answered the question. If you believe that if you're going to reshape, retool, however you want to frame it, around the guys that you have on term, then they're the ones that you want here. I'm not behind the curtain. I'm not sure if they're happy with the culture, with the attitude, the work, all of that type of stuff. That's for Brad Treliving and his management.
And that's two-way street. Maybe the players are looking around saying, what the hell is going on here?
So,
I don't love this either.
Again, so that type of stuff has to be answered. But if you believe in player X, Y, and Z, then you're moving forward with them and you're trying to get better around them. And that's what Boston did.
Yes.
And,
now they're not ready to win yet, too.
No.
It's going to take some more time.
But, and Boston's kind of hit the ditch a little bit recently to the point where,
Ottawa's kind of on their heels.
Columbus is right there. Like,
yes.
There's some teams that are sniffing, right? Like, Washington traded John Carlson. That doesn't mean
they're 4 points out.
Yeah, they're not waving the white flag.
Yeah.
They just they traded a legacy player.
Well, and that's, the Matthews angle on this, and we'll talk about it later this afternoon. Willie's got 6 years left on his deal, 7 years.
Yeah.
Like, he's a very different story. Austin's up in 2. But I think what needs to happen here is you got to go to Matthews in the summer. It's become abundantly clear. And you just have to ask him, are you committed to Toronto? Are you committed to winning here? Because I can't guarantee it's going to happen in the next 2 years.
Right.
The way things set up right now, I'd be very surprised if they felt they were cup contenders in the next 2 years. Could be wrong. Things change quickly. Right. This time last year, they thought they were. This year, we're talking about them dropping to bottom 5 in the league. Things change. But as I said today on the panel, it's just you got to get a candid answer. You got to go
all in, then you go, okay, this is what it looks like.
And guess what? If you're obsessed with winning in Toronto, it may take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Are you up for that?
Right.
Not every player is. I don't know if he would be. Right. I wouldn't blame him if he said, you know what, I don't think that's going to work for me. He'd be entitled to that. But you can't fast forward something if it's not available to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't be like, well, Matt's got 2 years left, so you got to go get Robert Thomas. You better go get this guy. Trade all the picks.
Because
you may lose
take
anyway.
Longer to get there, and he decides halfway through it.
I'm out of here anyway, and then you're in an even deeper hole.
Yeah.
So they've got to have that conversation. I'm sure they will. And there's some heavy lifting here because it has gotten ugly pretty quickly. Like, it's pretty shocking to watch them play right now.
Thing is, too, I don't know. You can speak to it more than I can, but would it be as ugly if they weren't losing the way they're losing? If they're losing 3-2 and it's hard fought, and
or mix in a couple of wins,
or hey, a bounce goes here or there. But like watching the Ottawa game, watching the game last night, like these
the Philly game was awful too. It was an awful hockey.
Well, it was, and they got a point out of it. But you know what I mean? Like like I watched the Calgary Flames last night. They give you everything they got.
Right. No, you can tell the effort isn't at 100%.
Right. That's where I'm at.
And that's what they need to shore up. And again, that's the players, the veteran players.
They got to wear that.
Know better than that.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. We'll hear from Brad Treliving this hour. He's coming on the show as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.
Tomorrow on TSN 1050, your Toronto Maple Leafs take on Nikita Kucherov and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Coverage starts at 6 p.m.
Matthew scores!
Hear it all on TSN 1050. The Leafs live here. Now, back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Mail In Friday continues, brought to you by Boston Pizza. I could fire up a Boston Pizza tonight. Man, it's a weird day here for us because, like, there's so much energy. It's a lot of fun. This year was a different year. I mean, there was not a ton going on.
We did some tap dancing today with, 10 trades? It felt like an eternity that we were on air and nothing was going on. And you're waiting for, like, okay, when's the first shoe going to drop? And it just didn't happen. It's 2 o'clock, and we're like, what was it, like 5 trades?
Yeah, we had been on the air for 6 hours, and there wasn't really a trade of substance at that point.
Braden Shen.
And Braden Shen's a very – I like that play by the Islanders because he's a gamer in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Like, he's a killer in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think they look at that and think, why not?
Yeah.
Why not give it a shot? Like, let's we can get in. Sorokin's really good.
Yep.
Him and Patrick Waugh, I think, will gel. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Really,
he's a Patrick Waugh type of player.
Absolutely. But yeah, it was different. Like, there wasn't as much going on, but it's a long day. You know, the whole eating, you're trying to eat away, and you just
there's a bunch of food, but not food that you want.
Yeah,
you can snack yourself to death there.
Right,
that's what it is.
That's what I end up doing. I just snack myself to death. And
I don't know if you saw. I didn't even know there's a legal size Red Bull like this. Yeah, it's like a 3-liter, like
supersized.
I grabbed it on the way over because I'm like, And
you don't drink coffee.
I don't drink coffee, so I'm dying for some caffeine because I'm, 2 hours sleep. I was on a red eye last night and
in Calgary last night.
Yeah, but it's it's the cost of doing business.
Oh, of course.
At this
no one's
time
complaining.
of year.
We're having fun. It's great.
But it just, I felt like I was so excited, and I said to you, one of our hits, I'm like, again, I said, all hell's going to break loose this year, and it was like even worse. It contracted. It actually got worse.
Yeah, there's a weird. I'm trying to get a read on what's going on in the NHL right now, where free agency isn't what it once was.
Yeah.
Now there are some exceptions. Obviously, Marner leaving was substantial, and there's always going to be players that get there.
Right.
But a lot of guys just re-sign with their respective teams.
Yeah.
And even at the deadline this year, like you look at the trade bait board, Vinny Trocheck, how can the Rangers possibly explain not trading him?
Yeah.
They didn't do it. Blake Coleman's still in Calgary. The Leafs didn't trade Ekman Larson. Bobrovsky didn't get traded from Florida.
Yeah.
Binnington obviously still in St. Louis. Like, there were a lot of names that we were consistently talking about that are not, like, they're household names in the NHL, like good impact veteran players.
Yeah.
And they just didn't get flipped.
I think a lot of managers sat there and said, they're on, all these guys are on term. They've got another year at least or whatever. Maybe we can deal with it.
But how can you possibly think you're going to trade these guys in the future? Like, that's where, like, right before we came on here, we mentioned Vancouver. And that's a market that's in flames, right? Like, they are so angry out there. Again, I'm just basing this off who I follow and who I know in Vancouver and people that I've worked with in the past. We've all worked with.
Yeah.
And, like, Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvin are just getting torched.
Sure.
Because they traded Connor Garland today, and that was effectively it. You know, and they traded Tyler Myers. Myers went to Dallas. And so Myers and Garland, but you've still got DeBrusque. You've still got Besser. Obviously, Patterson's still there. You got a couple of other defensemen.
Veronic, who I like that. There's some guys in that team. I've said this before.
They just signed Demko, and he's hurt again.
Yeah, like there's some guys in that team that I would be looking at and saying, can I get them out of there? Because I do like Jake DeBrusque. I think Jake DeBrusque is a really good player who hasn't, had that type of success there. Garland, I really like.
I like Garland, too. I think he's a good
I'm a big fan
player.
of his. And I think he's going to be great in Columbus. But when you look at it, bigger picture, like
they got a lot more breaking down to do in Vancouver.
Yes, exactly. Like they might have to go south before they go north.
Yes.
And again, this might be draft and free agency moves to start moving the deck chairs around.
Right. And Patterson, you may just be stuck with. And that's kind of the way to phrase it right now. you might be stuck with Pettersson.
Which sucks because I feel like there's another team you just mentioned, though, Carolina. Like, I'm sorry, you didn't mention it, but I thought about it. Like, Pettersson, like, would be a fit. Carolina was linked to a lot of players because I think people believe that Carolina could be one or two players away from being, like, super elite.
Always in it. They're doing it again. Back in the playoffs. They got Bussy in net.
Yeah, but it's just like, okay, you know, are they good enough to get to the conference final like they do every year?
Mm-hmm. But can you get over the top?
But do they have game breakers? Now Florida's not there to knock them off.
Well, and I wonder if that factored into the kind of calculation. Like that we don't feel like we need to be built the same way because we're not concerned about the teams we're playing.
Let me ask you this. If this is the Leaf team from last year, didn't have to play the Florida Panthers, they had to play Team X, you know.
And they didn't make moves, or they picked up one guy, Nick Delorier or something. I think people would be going nuts.
Right, because
I think you'd say, why aren't you being more active? It's your opportunity. The door's wide open for you.
I look at it like Florida was such a juggernaut. They gelled at the right time. They knew how to play, all of that. And they dismantled teams. And now they're not in the mix. Yeah. So maybe teams are complacent going, they're not there. We feel we're good enough to get through Team X, Y, and Z.
Well, and again, if you to bring it back to the Leafs, if it's becoming a league where you need flexibility, you accumulate and hold picks, you accumulate and hold prospects.
Yeah.
Then that's a lot more work to do than people understand.
Yes.
Because it's one thing to say, well, what are you going to do with the second line center? What are you going to do with the defense? How do you handle Riley and Domi? You know, pick a goalie. Those are all on the pro level, and those are important.
Right.
And those are very prevalent decisions that have to be made. But if the league is moving in the direction, kind of like how other leagues have operated in the past, the NFL, I would say, you know, in particular, where it's like you have to put a lot of faith in the draft.
Yeah.
Like draft picks are more valuable today than they were a year ago, certainly 5, 10, 15, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Then the Leafs have a lot of catching up to do in that area too, because they just don't have that many picks. They don't have that many prospects.
But that's been the
got to get that engine moving.
Yeah,
no, of course. And listen, last year's very clear. They went all in.
Yeah.
They paid a premium for two players. Do they regret it now? I'm sure they do. At the time, could you make sense of it? Yes. Sure. Like you understood what they were thinking. It didn't pay off because Florida
found a way,
ripped their souls out in Game 7.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't show up, and now we look back on that. That may have been the death blow of the of the era. That might have been it. Florida may have just ended them.
Yeah.
Just said, that's it, boys. You're done. And we've shaken you to the core.
So that comes back to the decision by Brad Treliving and his management group to go, okay, if that was the death blow, Marner's left. We have Matthews and Nylander. We want to continue on with them forward because we believe they can get it done if we reshape the group. Or, again, it's decisions. Boston's 2 years away. He's got to figure out what he's going to like.
What do you think the value of Matthews would be if he hit the market? Hypothetically speaking, both sides just say, you know, it's in our best interest. This is the way it's going to go.
It's big. Like, I think what happens is we've seen the best and the worst of Austin Matthews. He's still a superstar. And keep in mind, premium in this league is scoring and centerman. Like, he checks all the boxes. He's not physical, but I had somebody say to me the other day, he's more leaning towards Barkov, the way he plays, than, you know, just a prolific scorer that, you know, because he's become, you know, drawing a blank on his name now because I'm tired of coach of the Rangers.
Mike Sullivan.
Mike Sullivan was raving about him.
Right over there.
Saying, you know, what his leadership and what he did there in that great 200-foot game, but he's getting paid $14 million.
Right, exactly.
To score goals, too.
All right, let's head down to Maple Leaf Square, I believe, or down by the Ford Performance Center. Here's Brad Treliving.
On trades and whatnot that we made today, officially they're still in the queue. So I can't speak to a lot of it. We don't anticipate any problems. They just got to get through the sort of the batting order here. So, you know, in Bobby's case, subject to everything being okay, we've traded him to Seattle for 2 picks. And Scott was traded to LA for a pick here today, in addition to the move we made the other day with Nick.
Why do you think you ended up in the spot where you ended up being a trader on deadline day this season?
Well, today, listen, I'll answer all the questions and take responsibility for our season. I don't look at today as the autopsy day. We've got 19 games to go. But I think there's a whole host of reasons. I'll take responsibility. You know, we met earlier in the year through about the 20-game mark where we got off to a slow start. And again, the failures here start with me. And once we get through the end of the season, you know, there'll be all sorts of evaluation. But to start parsing through it right now, I think, Mark, we've got games to play. But it's, you know, there's a lot. You know, we got off to a poor start. You know, I look from my standpoint, some roster construction issues, lack of consistency, you know, the ability to you know, to maintain any kind of level. You know, there's been a whole bunch of factors, but you know, we'll get to that in due course.
Right. How do you evaluate the day and maybe just the market today overall?
Yeah, it's not just today. I mean, it's leading up today. You know, we made a decision a while ago, before the break, that, you know, we were going to be as active as we could in terms of trying to recoup some assets. You know, whether that be picks or prospects. This team, for a number of years, has been adding at this time of the year, and today was a day, and leading up to today was a day to try to regain some assets. And again, I know there's lots of speculation and all sorts of things out there. The market speaks. You know, at the end of the day, we were trying to be as active as we could to obtain and acquire as many young assets as we could, and we were able to do what we were able to do.
Why do you think an Ekman-Larsson trade didn't materialize?
Why didn't an Ekman-Larsson trade didn't materialize? At the end of the day, there was some interest in Oliver, to the level that I thought was required. You know, for us to move Oliver, I don't think it was something that we could just, you know, with term left on his contract, we required a return that I thought would be fair, and nobody met that level.
Why do you think it worked out this way for Scott Lawton, Brad? You paid a heavy price for Lawton last year. Like, why do you think it turned out this way for him in Toronto?
That's the market. I can't speak I can't speak highly enough about Scott Lawton. You know, not only, you know, his play, but he's as quality human as you're going to find. And yeah, I'll be the first one to say, last year at this time we paid a first and a young player in Grebby for him. This isn't a function of no teams knowing what we communicated with everybody, and ultimately the market dictates, right? And that's where it fell here for Scott today.
How different was this market this year with the playoff salary cap, with the no double retention, with the a lot of no move clauses, just in general? What have you seen? What have you heard?
Well, there's no excuse. Like, there's no the trade protection that's there every year. Obviously, there's a couple nuances. I feel this year there was a lot more players available. There was a lot more. You know, there was a lot more players on the market. You know, and the retention piece, I mean, that's another area for the first time in a long time we've had cap space. So we were very open to being, you know, taking on money, taking on contracts. There wasn't a lot of teams, other than one or two, that had cap issues that you normally see, right? You normally see double retention and guys trying to slot guys in. That wasn't as big a factor as it had been in the past. And then, yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of talk of how the playoff salary cap's going to come into play this year, and I think there's a lot of planning for teams leading up to it. But the biggest probably change for me is just the amount of money in the system as opposed to the most recent years.
Why do you believe Craig is still the right coach for this team?
Well, like everything else, Luke, we all take responsibility for it, and I think Craig's a terrific coach. It hasn't worked, right? So when it doesn't work, we all share a blame, and we all share responsibility in it, right? So it starts with myself, it's the coaches, it's the players. We all are partners in this thing, and when it goes poorly, we all got responsibility for it. But you know, again, to do a summation right now, I think is premature. But like everything else, we'll review at the end of the year.
No doubt.
Did you approach any of the no-move guys at all this week to ask them to consider waiving or anything?
No, I think communication with those is more at this time of the year. Just being prepared if something comes up. But we weren't, you know, we use Oliver for an example. I talked to him. He's got some trade protection, and just made him aware that, you know, as we're going through this time of year, there may be a conversation to be had, so you're preparing them, but I didn't have any conversations. There was nothing to have conversations about.
Side of players, Brad, but just the idea of your group having some currency, if you will, and to replenish that.
Yeah, for sure. Like everything else, you hope and wish it was more, but like I said, we're on that path of we have to collect some young assets, and today's a day to make changes. As we lead into the end of the year and into the spring and summer is another opportunity. But certainly that was a big part of today, is trying to collect as much currency as we possibly could.
Did you send anybody Marlies to make them call
Yes, we did.
Cowan and Quillen?
Cowan and Quillen, yes.
And do you think you'll be using some Marlies later in the year to see what they can offer?
I would anticipate that, yeah.
What do you want to see in these last 19 games?
I want to listen, and this isn't. We've come out of the break here flat, you know, and like I said, it's important for us to find out why. I can't give you a good reason for it. It's not. You know, it's not anything we anticipated. We're pros. We're in the best league in the world. It's a privilege to play in the league, and we've got to compete as such. I understand at this time of the year. I know there's lots of. I don't question the quit in our team, and I know there'll be lots of noise around quitting and all the rest of it. It's difficult when you're in the position that we are, and reality sets in. And you know, not only how the losses have been piling up, not getting in the points, where you sit in the standings, you've got the trade deadline looming over. It's reality. They're humans, not making excuses for them. But now today's behind us, and it's our job to go out and be professionals, and that's what I expect.
The pick you sent to Boston, only top 5 protected. Why isn't it top 10 protected?
Because that's what we had to do to get the deal done last year.
How hard did you push for top 10?
We pushed.
How late did things go today in terms of making the deals? How late did it go, and what was it like, kind of
How late?
the deals that you got done? You said they're still in the queue. Just how late did you end up leaving those last couple trades today, and what was it like, kind of waiting?
Yeah, we weren't leaving anything. We were trying to, like I said, there was lots of activity of outbound calls and not a ton inbound, but it went down to the witching hour.
Bobby's trade kind of went down to the wire as well. What was the process like to land where you did on him?
Taking the best deal that was available to us, the best offer that we had.
Do you think this team would be a playoff team next year? Is that the plan?
We're going to get to that once we get through this year. Today's not the day for that. There's change that has to occur. There's changes we need to make, and but that's not for today.
But do you understand that fans might be a bit confused or in the dark about where the direction of this organization is headed next year and the year after?
Where the direction is?
Yeah, like if this is a minor reset, or if
I think it's important that we have to communicate that, right? And that's what we have to get to people once we get to the end of the year of where this team's going. You know, the purpose of today was change. Change has to occur, right? How and what that is will be determined over the coming days, but today was an opportunity for us to try as hard as we can to collect and gain as many assets as we possibly could, and then we go from there.
So if you don't know the direction, you haven't ruled out the possibility of a rebuild in the
Yeah, I know everybody wants to speculate on, and we've all got, you know, the rewords, but there's got to be some change, and I think that's for us to sit down and look hard and fast at. It's been a disappointing year. You know, we can look back at a big chunk of this team and the year that they had last year, but this is this year, and you have to sit down and be real analytical. You have to be real clear, and you have to be real honest of where you're at, and at that point make some decisions.
When did you kind of know yourself that you would be a seller, not a buyer this year?
Well, you always hold out hope, but you know, there's been just so much inconsistency. You know, going back to October and November, there's been injuries. Everybody has injuries, right? So now the significant ones for us were in goal over the course of the first couple of months. Chris Tanov's been a big loss, but if you're deep enough and you're good enough, you can overcome those things. We never were able to consistently get traction, and so I've been concerned for a while, and so then you look at how do you help, right? How do you make change? And you know, we weren't about to start throwing a bunch of young assets out the door for a quick help. So we couldn't find something there, you know, earlier in the season to help us change course, but we could just never get traction. We had a stretch there, I think, you know, 9-0-1 or something in that. But outside of that, it's just been too much inconsistency. So I've been concerned for a while.
What are the conversations with ownership been like? There's an ownership change with this organization. I'm just wondering what the message from the top has been through this.
Ownership's been good. They're updated regularly on what's going on and keep them advised of not only what's going on, but presenting a plan moving forward. So I can't speak highly enough about how ownership's been supportive.
Callan went about a month there without playing. I'm just wondering kind of what your thoughts are on his development and how things are coming along for him.
Yeah, well, 3 weeks of it was because we had a deadline, right? Or we had a break.
Right.
So he's contrary to some of the things that I had been sent. He wasn't eligible to go down due to a number of days on roster. I think it was good for him to get a break. But as I said earlier, young players can't sit, right? He sat a few games leading up to the break, a few games after, but Easton's going to be playing and playing a lot, whether that be here or with the Marlies. He's a young player, he's an important player, and so that's the plan for Easton. He needs to play at that age to continue to develop.
How much conversations have you had with Austin about the future of this team and the future of the organization?
Yeah, Austin and I have a lot of conversations, but a lot of our conversations are about how does the team get better, and the usual conversations you have during a year, and dealing with the challenges you have every day. So we have lots of conversations with them. We don't get much deeper that in terms of how we help our team and things that we can do better. Okay.
Thank you, Brad.
All right, there he is, Brad Treliving, the GM of the Leafs. And I would say a somber disposition up there. Like
fair.
You know, I'm sure the guy's not on much sleep, and he knows where people are at. Like, he knows the way his team's playing, and he took responsibility. He said it starts with me. He did say it's, you know, I don't remember his exact quote, but basically team building issue, and he's responsible for that.
Yeah, roster construction. But he also said, you know, players, we had injuries, all that. I'm not going to use the excuse. But when asked about it, I think a lot of the questions were fair. And he said, like, I'm not going to do, can't remember use the word, but like an autopsy or whatever.
Yeah. They're going to wait until the end of the year.
Right.
But I thought, you know, someone asked him about the messaging to the fans, and he acknowledged, like, we've got to do that. Like, he's not going to do it now because they do have 19 more games to play. The trade deadline's done. There's nothing more to be done now. Right. Unless you're going to move off the coach, which I didn't get that impression. He was asked about Craig Berube, and he just said, Craig's a great coach. We all have to take responsibility.
Yep.
He didn't. That answer would indicate to me they're just going to ride this out the rest of the year, then try to figure things out, let the dust settle. But messaging, I do think, is imperative here. They've got to let the fan base know, not exact details of what's going to go on, but do you think you can make the playoffs? Now, people may not like that, but do you think you can? If this is going to take you a year or two, if you're going to preach for patience,
I think
you've got to give people something to chew on.
But you're not going to get that until the autopsy of the season.
At the end of the year.
You're not going to get that.
A week or two after the season.
11 games left in the season. You're not going to go, this is the plan. Because this team, they got 19 games left. Like the scary part is
they got to keep playing.
Yeah, they got to play.
Well, yeah. What if they go? What are you going to say? 15-4,
12-7. You know what I mean?
It's possible. It seems unlikely.
12-7, but they get close, but not close. And then you're like, okay, we're in the murky middle.
Seems impossible to believe that could happen.
Well, listen, given their effort, he talked about it. The effort coming out of the break has not been good enough.
No.
So it's hard to assess your team right there. I think there's somewhere in the middle of what we're seeing right now. Not good enough,
not this bad.
That effort's not been good enough as well.
And, the best organizations do not allow themselves to get overly emotional.
Right.
Or panic.
Yeah.
So they have to get to the end of the season, let it breathe, and figure out what you can do here.
Yeah.
Hour 2 coming up. OverDrive continues up on YouTube Live.
It's Mail It In Friday.
The plant called and said if you don't come in tomorrow, don't bother coming in Monday.
Woohoo! 4-day weekend.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Final hour OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Best bets later in the hour. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan. The O-Dog's still over there doing panel work. He was fading by the end of the day.
He was miserable by the end of the day.
It just wasn't a lot going on, and I think I have the biggest gripe of the company.
Well, that was outrageous.
So they were doing this then and now. I guess it's a big trend online on TikTok,
I haven't
Instagram.
seen it. Yeah, I'm not on TikTok.
Where, it's a picture from your past, and a lot of it is AI generated, clearly.
Of course, yeah.
And that's what TSN was doing. And, Duthie's I thought was pretty flattering. Yours was cool. You're in your goalie equipment. Was in Carolina, his famous black eye picture. And they used the most recent photo shoot where he looked great. Look at this from me. What the hell? Who are those people?
Yeah, I don't know.
Both of them are, the guy on the right looks like Xander Schauffele.
Yeah.
Or a guy who's been smoking a lot of cigars with his windows up. Guy on the left looks kind of like Sheldon Keefe.
Yeah.
But awful.
It was outrageous.
Like the worst AI pictures
so
ever.
So disrespectful, too. Why did they choose that body type? It's like...
Exactly. Well, and here's what happened, all right? So they sent an internal email saying, can you send us a picture from your past? And I made the mistake of not jumping on that.
I never got that email.
Yes. So I got an email. I think it was Mocker that sent it to a bunch of people. You might have been on it. You never use. I swear you don't use your work email.
I do.
Oh, the amount of times I was like, I didn't get that email. I'm looking at your email.
I would
address.
promise you that I did not get that email, or else I would have.
Well, they probably trusted yours because they're like, you're an NHL player.
Yeah, you can
That's
pull
cool.
up
It's going to look
Getty
great.
Images or whatever.
You're going to find a million different. They could go, and it's always going to look cool. You're in the NHL. Look at that. You can't go wrong. That's a great shot. Now, you have aged a lot in AI. I will say that.
Yeah, the guy on the right, it doesn't look like me.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like you. But they asked me for a pic, and my head starts spinning. CJ's in here with us, Chris Johnston. Because the early days of me at TSN, there are pics that are out there that are absolute disasters.
Yes.
And they're me.
You were Griff.
I was a slob. I had no style. I didn't put any time or thought into anything, and it was awful. And that was one of the photo shoots.
That you sent in?
I didn't send it.
Picture?
I didn't send it. They went out and used it without running it by me. Where, again, I'm at fault here because I could have sent them something.
Right.
And I was trying to find something from 10 years ago as opposed to from 13 or 14 years ago.
There was a time when you got really skinny, and you could have popped that in there. That was 8 years ago, wasn't it?
About 10, 11 years ago.
So you could have
I could have dropped that where I was 185 pounds. Instead, I'm 270
That's
in that
15 years ago when you and I first started at Blue Lunch.
That guy on the left, that's a disaster.
Oh, my God.
That's a disaster, Chris.
They did you dirty on
Yeah, and the guy on the right looks... It's a brutal look.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not me. It's a goof. Those aren't my teeth.
I was just going to say, those aren't your jibs.
Those are not my teeth. I don't have teeth like that.
It is just weird.
Did you get a say in this at all? Sorry,
No.
I'm jumping in late here, but I'm just seeing this for the first time.
Absolute debauchery.
He says that we got emails. I did not get
I didn't get an email about that.
Exactly. You didn't get an email. I saw yours. You obviously no beard and all that. It was just a weird, I had no idea that was coming down the pike. You at least got to submit a picture.
I knew it was coming. My spidey sense was flying because I'm they're going to go back to 2012, 2013.
Yes, when you and I were on Richmond Avenue or whatever.
Exactly.
At
downtown,
the Chum Building.
At the Chum Building.
And Brian was, the hand up and screaming into the microphone.
And that's exactly one of the pictures they used.
Oh.
That photo shoot would have been winter of 2012, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's lawsuit material.
Yeah, that was.
That's a jam job of epic proportions.
Are they trying to force you out? They want you to waive your no move clause?
That might be what I just got Pareco'd. I might have got something like that where they're basically we'd rather you're not here anymore. Pushing me out of TSN.
You're right. Speaking of Pareco, that's a weird situation. You're obviously on the, the insider side where you get information a lot where you can't reveal your sources because you talk to people a lot and they trust you. That one, was it weird? Like I'm reading again, consider the source, but you read online saying like St. Louis was pissed because they almost like they did an internal like who leaked that type of thing, and they're claiming nobody from their side leaked that. Like that's a weird, and it put the player in a bad spot, and ultimately like the deal died.
Well, nobody wants this. I mean, even like this was Dregs' report initially, right? He broke the story. He wasn't wrong. I mean, there was a deal done conditional on Parayko waiving. Like no one's disputing that. But you know, even when you're doing our side of the job, like you don't want to become part of the story, right? Like basically what the question you're asking, Noodles, is like, how does this happen? And you know, Dregs would just rather break the news that everything goes smoothly and the guy's playing in Buffalo on Tuesday night or whatever. But yeah, so you're right. It's a tough one for Colton, I'm sure, number one, but it's not great for the Blues, not great for the Sabres either. Now they're having to defend something. You know, it's not their fault. You know, it's just.
But there's so many, once talks start, as we all know, you talk to people in the league, there's agents, there's family members, like there's so many people that are connected to players and the league. It's that 6 degrees of separation. You can't really figure out where it came from by the time it's got too many tentacles.
And you want to know the truth, and I'm just reflecting on this after the heat of the day. Yeah. And even it wasn't that busy, it's still busy on your phone, right?
Right.
You know, it's getting sloppier than ever in a sense.
Yeah.
Because, you know, information travels so fast.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about trades right now that aren't even approved yet, right?
Right.
Like Brad Treliving, I just caught the end of his thing there with the reporters. Like he's saying that their trades are still in the queue. So there would have been a time 20 years ago that wouldn't, you know, it just wouldn't all be out there yet. But you know, it's hard when players are getting informed, when multiple people know in a front office, as you mentioned, agents get involved. You know, there's a lot of different ways we all find out about these things.
Think about it. Like it gets registered with the league. There could be somebody in that room that's registering it that has a body. Like
I wish I knew that guy a little better.
So
anyway.
many different layers to this. But we were complaining when we came on at 4:00. Make the queue shorter. Like you do not like this. Is there one person answering the phone and doing every trade, or like that's the one thing? Like, don't you think each team should have a designated queue where you can make that process a lot quicker in registering with the league? Because it's a couple hours after the trade deadline and we're still having trickle down effect because they're in the trade queue. They have to do it, you know, legally and properly. Don't you think they should have more resources in the queue on a particular day like this?
Well, I think they do. I don't know how many people are doing it, but they definitely are equipped to have multiple calls at once. But as much as, of course, those of us wanting to know, we want to know everything yesterday.
Right.
But once these trades are official, they're official, right? So even something as simple as, you know, the Calgary trade with Kadri and Colorado. They have to make sure that Calgary actually owns this pick and Colorado owns that pick and that it's not part of another deal that someone forgot about. And so the point is that I think it is a more thorough process than we might realize, even for what might sound like kind of simple trades. And they got to get it right. So
that's fair.
You know, again, we want everything right in the moment, but they only get one chance not to screw it up.
That's fair.
So, you know, some deals went down, obviously. Braden Shen goes from St. Louis to the Blues. Justin Falk from St. Louis to Detroit. Now, some Kadri, I'd say maybe the biggest deal of the day in terms of the Canadian markets, going from Calgary to Colorado. Leafs make a couple of deals, but not overwhelming. A lot of the guys on the trade bait board not traded. Trocheck didn't go anywhere. Bob didn't go anywhere. Oliver Ekman-Larsson didn't go anywhere. What is your theory on why we just had the trade deadline we did?
I do think that the new CBA rules played effect. You know, just not having the playoff salary cap, it's a new thing. And I guarantee you, we get to mid-April and it's the first games of the playoffs, some weird stuff's going to go on, like that we haven't all put our minds around. But some team somewhere this playoffs is not going to be able to dress its best lineup, not because of injury, not because of salary cap, these new rules. And so, you know, I think that had a chilling effect in the back. And then on top of that, it started off, it felt like as a seller's market. I mean,
yeah,
you know, I listened to your show yesterday. I mean, no one thought Nicholas Waugh was getting that return probably until it happened, a few other trades. But then at the end, there just wasn't any buyers left. And so, you know, you see the Leafs, you know, move McMahon and Lawton right before 3:00 Eastern. Maybe don't get exactly back what they had hoped. You know, they're far from the only ones. It's why they didn't trade OEL. It's why the Rangers said, hey, wait, we're not trading our guy. Ryan O'Reilly was out there today. Yeah. You know, finally the Predators were willing to move him. They couldn't get the price they wanted. And so I just think that teams especially with all those guys with term left on their deals, decided not to trade them for less than the value they were holding to them.
Yeah, that's interesting. And listen, I can reason with that. I guess what I'm more surprised by is that there was more conservative buyers this year.
Yeah.
Like there were clearly very ambitious sellers. You know, if you're selling, hey, what can you give me? You know, I'll take 2 first, great. 3 first, like I'm not going to put a limit on it as a seller. But that's kind of what stood out to me was no one grabbed the bull by the horn today. There were good moves. You know, I think Shen in Long Island will be interesting. Falk's a good defenseman. Buffalo added a couple of depth defensemen.
The only team for me that it was really active was Minnesota.
In the
They
past.
kept adding. No, but like you got Hughes, right? But then they have Fabry, and then they traded for a few more players. Like they were depth players, you know.
Yeah.
But the Foligno, like to me, they brought in more players because I think they're all in.
Sure. And I guess Colorado, I should say, if you bring in Kadri and Waugh on back-to-back days, maybe they looked at
Their center ice position is ridiculous.
Loaded.
Yeah.
But, like, Montreal didn't do it. Buffalo, minor, but didn't really do it. You know, Detroit, one trade, okay, not a ton.
Carolina.
You know, Carolina didn't really do it.
Tampa, man.
Tampa picked up Corey Perry and nothing else.
But they're usually the star of the, maybe
Right.
not necessarily the day, because sometimes it happens a few days before.
Right.
But Julian Breezewell is never afraid to trade a bunch, like every draft pick he's got.
Especially when they're this good and they realize they can probably win. I don't see why they wouldn't feel like they could.
Well, they just
So
what they wanted to do. I was joking, saying, well, they wanted to guarantee themselves to at least to get to the finals.
Yeah.
So they grabbed Corey Perry.
a smart play. He makes it every time.
They are, knock on wood, for the most part. A lot of their players didn't go to the Olympics just based on their nationality. They should be flying. Now, they haven't played great coming out of the break that much, but I think they're a top-tier team. But I was surprised that teams that I think could have pushed themselves even further down the chain of command, like Carolina adding another special player, that type of stuff. Vegas, you know, they went and got Rasmus Anderson, which was kind of their big trade.
Yeah. And Marner over the offseason.
Two fourth liners in recent days here.
Yeah, but like not
out and
not a big splash, but like you look at it, it just I think teams were fine being status quo, going it's a weird year, and guess what? The Cup champs aren't. We don't have to go through them. That's the other thing. There's going to be a new Stanley Cup champion this year, in my opinion, unless Florida goes 20-0.
Probably not going to happen.
Stretch. Not going to happen.
In Florida's opinion, too, there's going to be a new one.
Right.
Yeah, I think
so.
they're pretty aware.
They know where they're at.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's because it's interesting. We were watching and we were playing the Treliving presser, and you know he seemed somewhat subdued and somewhat. I wouldn't want to. I don't know if it's dejected. It's the right word, but you know, last year, according to him, the market dictated got to pay Minton and a first for Carlo. Got to pay a first and a prospect for Lawton. And a year later, it switched.
Yeah.
You know, now, do you look back on it and say maybe you just overpaid and you should have held your guns last year? I think that's reasonable to suggest. You should have told Boston, we're not paying it. What are you going to do?
Right.
You know, if you lose the game of chicken, someone's going to lose it.
Yeah.
But where do you stand on the Leafs and the fact that Treliving was reluctant to really give a synopsis on everything and obviously reveal any sort of plan in the future?
Yeah, I didn't read much into his tone, if only because it's just such a long few days. Like, think how we feel, and we're not.
Yeah.
We're not really in the fire of it. I mean, we're in O's fire. We got to keep out of his way on the set. But you know, like it's not quite the same thing as making the decisions that Brad Treliving and the other GMs are. Look, the market. The one saving grace, in my opinion, first of all, the Nicholas Waugh deal was higher than I would have expected.
Yeah.
So that does balance maybe some disappointment today, and nobody else went out and really. I mean, you might argue, I guess, the St. Louis returns on Falk and Shen, you know, are the kind of returns you were hoping if you moved an OEL, for example. But really, nobody else sold better than them, I'll call it, or like clearly outclassed them in that regard. So I just don't think it was there for them. And you know, last year, we can all, like, it's obvious. They wouldn't make the Carlo trade today. If you had the ability to go back and undo it, they would. But it was a defensible move at the time because they were on the way to winning the division. What were we saying in this very spot? I remember I came in, we were probably saying, you know, the Leafs have to go for it. They had to address that right side of the blue line. They had to get another center in. Now, it didn't work.
And we were actually, sorry to interrupt, we were applauding the moves because Brandon Carlo was a tough guy to play against.
With term on his deal, they had eaten money.
And Scott Lawton was the type of guy you needed, hard to play against. center ice position can kind of go up and down.
If they win one more game, I know it sounds. If they go to the conference final, like, are we even?
No, we're probably not, because you're going through another 10 days, 2 weeks of excitement, and there's more involved, all of that type of stuff, more success. But Brian talked about, at that point, that's the cost of doing business. And if we had a crystal ball, it's easy in hindsight to go back and go, geez, that was a mistake, but that's what it was. And especially, it doesn't help that Fraser Minton goes on and plays very well for Boston.
And that pick's going to be a good pick.
And the pick will be a very
crushing.
good pick, potentially, if things continue to.
Didn't they win the draft lottery today?
They did with us. That was 100% legit that they won that lottery.
That was crazy, too. I think
they were doing it, and it was like, oh, my God, the Leafs came out.
The look on O's face when he, I was like, oh, my God, and
Well,
people were going to say that was rigged.
But it wasn't. We were all there watching
his
it.
Face.
Well, do you how do these final 19 games? What's a perfect world scenario of the final 19 games?
I'm very much in the camp that the most losses, at this point, why win anything? And I realize, obviously, the players aren't going to feel that way. Chief, as he does his media every day, he's going to have to be putting on a certain face, and he wants them to win. But frankly, I just think there's not a lot of upside in the Leafs, making any kind of. It's not, there's no push to making the playoffs. But even let's say they finish, slightly above 500. To me, that would be an empty. I think you got to lean in. If anyone's injured, shut them down early. Try some players from the Marlies. They didn't move out as much today as maybe they could have, or that they would have if the market was a little frothier. But I mean, let's face it, it's not a full-on tank, but it's the little mini tank for the next month and a half.
I was going to ask you, is that, if you look at it, if somebody's a little nicked up, you just go shut it down, because that's what the Boston Bruins did last year.
Right, but
Once
they
hit
had
a point.
pick. That's the thing.
But they had, it was McAvoy got hurt, Lindholm got hurt. They were just shutting people down left and right. Marchand at the deadline, you got to go. They basically made that commitment to try and go as far down as possible. Here, what worries me is Matthews hasn't scored in 10. What if he goes on one of his weird streaks that he does, right? He scores 14 in 10.
Yeah.
And Willie, is not going away. That type of stuff.
What about Berube? Anything from that presser that would suggest he's not going to coach 19 more games?
I'd be surprised personally. I mean, I can understand where the conversation's coming from. I mean, 2 regulation wins out of 19 games. I mean, any coach in that circumstance would be under question. And, you're seeing right up there on the screen. And for those viewers watching, I mean, it's hard not to ignore that
they're not
necessarily a reaction to the coach's fire there during the game last night at Madison Square Garden. Now, look, the last 2 games were particularly tough, too. You take 3 guys, park them in the press box.
Distracting.
It's like firing a cannon through the dressing room. I'm not second guessing whether they shouldn't have done it, but I think in terms of the players on the team, it's pretty jarring. Frankly, I mean, you heard Nylander kind of say this in his interviews. He's just never been around this. He's never been. I guess the Leafs teams he was first called up on weren't playoff teams, but ever since he's been a full-time player in the league, they've been a playoff team. It's going to be tough watching some of these nights.
This is new for them.
It's going to be challenging. I will say this. For me, the main reason to sit anyone down that might be injured, though, isn't even about losing the games. I just want them as ready to go September 15th as possible. These guys have all played playoff games every year. They've been part of the Olympics and 4 Nations. They've played a lot of hockey, too. Not Panthers level or Golden Knights level of games, but if you can get these guys healthier and have better summers, I mean, next year counts, and next year is going to be very important around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure will be. All right, CJ. Great stuff, buddy. Thank you for doing this, as always.
Way to work.
That's it?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
You've been doing enough today.
Had
I'm sure
a
you got to go
long day.
do more. You going to do more?
Yeah, but, I mean, Pete's working for a living.
Absolutely, it does. True. That's right. There he is, our TSN Hockey Insider, Chris Johnston, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. It's time to Toyota in the 2025 Prius. Go up to 72 kilometers on battery alone, then seamlessly switch to hybrid mode. Check it out at Maple Toyota, right near Canada's Wonderland in the Maple Auto Mall. GM and the Leafs coming up. Best bet still to come. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and up on TSN.
Sunday on TSN 1050. Your Toronto Raptors take on the Dallas Mavericks.
Snaps it down. Take that with you.
Coverage starts at 5:30 p.m. Hear it all on TSN 1050. The Raptors live here. Now, back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Just keep it safe with me.
Mail It In Friday brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you get it all in 20 minutes or less. A fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. You know what? I've been getting a lot of Dear Hazy Bees sent my way.
Yeah.
Like bachelor party stuff, golf season right around the corner, leave tickets down the stretch. We got to get back to kind of helping some people out.
Maybe that'll be therapeutic.
I think down the stretch, we need to mix in like a Dear Hazy Bee Leaf fan edition.
Exactly. Like just kind of, and it doesn't have to be a Friday afternoon. Maybe it's, a Monday. How did your weekend go? Did you step in one on the weekend and you're in trouble or whatever? Like it might have to be impromptu along
Absolutely,
the way.
a moving target.
Yeah.
It can be very spontaneous.
I think that would be nice.
Because, Leaf fans are on edge, man. Like, and I understand it. I get it. Like, everyone is unhappy.
Yeah.
And, we come on here and we talk about them all the time, and we all have opinions and we all have viewpoints. And listen, a lot of them are moving targets.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to project exactly what is going to happen, exactly what should happen. You're not privy to everything going on behind the scenes.
Right.
How everyone's feeling, But it's I have just noticed that the kind of vitriol is up a notch in terms of the reaction to like any little opinion you might have. It's like, you're an idiot. What the hell are you talking about? Everyone's pissed off right now.
That's what it is. You can speak.
I get it. I totally
get it. People are going through this for the first time in 10 years, right?
It's tough.
In this market. Secondly, they don't know how to react because it's like, what are we doing here? Where's the direction? Like you could clearly see from the minute that Matthews and Marner and Nylander were on the scene, they were building up to something. And then when they arrived, it's like, okay, we're going to kick at the can. We're going to, we're going all in. We're doing all of this. Hey, we won the division. Like you could see all that. There's so much uncertainty now, and it brings back the vitriol as to like, okay, direction, all of that type of stuff. But I think, we can do a Dear Hazy Bee. We can,
We'll do some Dear Hazy Bees.
We'll have all of that stuff.
Yeah, I know.
It's all good.
And listen, they got 19 games left.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Like I was talking with someone yesterday, Jack, they're going to the game tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Tampa's in town.
Exactly.
Right? So you still have 19 games left to be played, but now a lot of the heavy lifting is over because the trade deadline has come and gone, and the Leafs traded Nick Waugh yesterday to Colorado, Scott Lawton to L.A., and Bobby McMahon to Seattle. To chat about that, among other things, here is the GM of the Leafs. Here's Brad Treliving. How you doing, Brad?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Doing okay. So, we played your press conference, and you were talking about the market kind of dictates the way things are going to play out. How would you describe your deadline based on what you were hoping to accomplish?
Well, we were hoping to garner, I would tell you, more young assets. We put a plan in place probably just leading up into the Olympic break. And as you do every year, there's lots of communication with the teams, trying to get a sense of what they're doing, making sure they're clear on what your direction is, what your plans are, things that you'd like to accomplish. So our goal going in was to be as active as we could to regain as many young assets as we possibly could. And ultimately, you've got to have, an interest level to whatever extent on your players. And, at the end of the day, the market dictates, what teams want, what they need, and ultimately what they're prepared to pay for.
So, Tree, we were listening to your press conference there, and you were laying it out, what the market speaks and what was it saying, all of that type of stuff. Could you feel leading up to it that, it was a changing market as far as maybe assets on the market, teams that were more in, for lack of a better word, sell mode, or players that were more available that you didn't expect leading up to it?
Well, there's always, Noodles, there's always at this time of the year, there's always expect the unexpected, right? But we had a pretty good idea coming in. There's certainly some teams that were going to wait and see how they came out of the break in terms of, where they would be. It might not necessarily be in a full sell mode or full buy mode, but they may do a little bit less. But, we felt pretty comfortable that there's going to be, a lot of players on the market. And, at the end of the day, it still comes down to, what their needs are, what they're prepared to pay for. I was asked one of the questions today, we were probably the biggest difference, especially in the last couple of years. And there certainly was some instances of this, but there wasn't the need or the requirement for a lot of teams to retain money or to move money. Obviously some rule changes with the double retention process has changed, but there's more money in the system, and those teams that are acquiring players, there was more cap space available than there normally was. So, those are all the types of things we were looking to try to accomplish. But, short order, I would probably say there was more players in the market than, even going back to a year ago or in recent years. But also, always it comes down to fit, right? You have a certain player that you're looking to move or have an interest in moving. The team has got to need to have a fit and have a value of that player in order to make a deal.
So the last couple of games you had kept Bobby McMahon and Scott Laughton out of the lineup. You've traded the two of them today. You also kept Oliver Ekman-Larsson out of the lineup the last 2 days. You did not trade him. So what was your message to Oliver in terms of his standing within the organization moving forward?
Well, I spoke to all three players prior to obviously them sitting out with those two, Bobby and Scott, with those being UFAs and those two games coming up, and some of the interest level that was out there, teams indicating that they would have interest, they would stay in communication over the next 48 hours. Just felt it was prudent to keep them out and not risk injury. And similar with Oliver, there had been some interest. Oliver, I spoke to him. Told him I'd keep him apprised if something came available, but I just felt with some of the conversations that had happened prior to it was made sense for him to sit out, and all three of them understood.
And in terms of Ekman-Larsson, does this mean he's a Leaf for the next 2 years? How does it affect what you plan on doing with him?
Well, it doesn't affect anything. Oliver's a pro. And all these players are pros. They understand this is part of the business. So, I spoke to him after the deadline and said there wasn't a deal that took place, and we move on. And, I'm not going to comment on any player about how long they're going to be here. He understood fully. You communicate that to your players, and the deadline's passed, and he remains with us, and we move forward.
With Brad Treliving, and in your presser last hour, you mentioned you still have 19 games to play. Today's not the day for a full synopsis on what's happened here. You'll get to that, in 6 weeks or so. But is there a best case scenario for you? The final 19 games, like if you could map this out, what is the best case scenario for you guys?
Well, listen, it's tough, Brian. We've underperformed. I've said it earlier. I take full responsibility for it. And we all own it, right? Whether it be coaches, management, coaches, players, we're in this, we all share responsibility together. And now we've got 19 games to play. The deadline's behind us. We're professionals. You got to go out there. Sometimes you're not where you want to be in whatever walk of life or whatever job you're in, and you're not sitting obviously where we felt we were going to be and want to be, but you got to go out there and be professionals. You watch when things are great and you watch when things are poor, and So we continue to watch and see how people react. But I expect that we will go out and compete and be professionals and do the jobs that we're paid to do.
Is that more on the players or the coach to establish that professionalism the final 19 games?
It's on all of us, right? Coaches, players, all of us. We have a job to do, and that doesn't change. So the expectation is everybody's that falls on all of us, and like I said, we are where we are. So you deal with it, and you move forward.
So it's been a bit of a weird year for a lot of teams, Tree, and when you talked about it in a presser, you came out of the break 0-4-2. It's not where you wanted to be. Did you get a sense, and I've seen this with a few teams, that they're just kind of waiting for a shoe to drop? And what I mean by that is, trade deadlines coming up. You just mentioned after the trade deadline, this is the team for the most part. You might have some call-ups, that type of stuff. Is there maybe a calmness or a different mentality? And then it's on the coach, then it's on the leadership group to go, hey, we're pros. We need a hard effort. We need more from this group the last 19 games.
Well, sure. I think a couple of things. We haven't been nearly good enough coming out of the break. I thought you keep a pulse in your team. I thought we went through that, however long it was, a week or week and a half of practice. I thought we were prepared. I thought we had energy. I thought there was an excitement in our group. And listen, the results speak for themselves. But there is, there's a realization, like to me, that you are a professional. You're expected to perform like one. But I understand. I don't say it's an excuse. But the players felt it. The position we were in. A lot of guys going through this for the first time at a deadline, and we sat where we sat, and not where this team has sat for. Going back to last year, trying to add the year before. For the last 8-9 years, you're trying to add. So there's a heaviness to it. No matter how professional you're trying to be, there's a weight to it. The deadline's coming up. There's certainly some unknown for a lot of players of where they're going to be. So there's a human element. I get all that, but that's the job we signed up for, and it comes with a lot of great things, and it comes with some things that we got to deal with. So those things are behind us now, and this is our group. We anticipate, as you said, there'll be some players that we want to take a look at from the Marlies. But we got to go out and we've got to do our jobs.
In terms of, the handling of no movement clauses, no trade clauses, it popped up a couple of times with other teams and other players leading up to the trade deadline. But it feels like 40% of the league has some sort of trade protection. And it's a constant conversation around the league, at least from the outside looking in. How do managers handle it? How do organizations handle it? What is your stance on players with no movement clauses, no trade clauses, and possibly making it uncomfortable if need be, if you feel like you need to move on from that player, but they have it within their contract?
Well, any player with no trade or any type of trade protection, it's been negotiated, and it's been signed off on by the team and by the players. So it's a negotiated right. And so I don't fault any player with any trade protection or anything of that like. Having said that, as I've told my players, and we'll use Oliver as an example, I've got a good relationship with Oliver. He's got trade protection. He knows it. I know it. If there's something that comes up, it doesn't prevent us to going from him and talking to him about it. Ultimately, they have a decision to make on that. But I was asked today. We didn't have any discussions to have with players in terms of those that had protection, but that's their right. When those are handed out, when those are signed off on, that's the players. It's a negotiated right, and so I fully understand that. It's hard to give a player a no trade and then bitch about it. Mm-hmm. That also doesn't prevent, teams from going to players if something comes up that they feel is beneficial for the team, at least to have a discussion with the player about it.
Right. Obviously, out of the break, you've detailed it. Everyone's seen it. It hasn't gone well. Even prior to the break, outside of those 3 wins down the stretch, you guys, haven't won a lot in regulation recently. You're asked about Craig Berube and his status. It sounds as if he's going to remain your coach. Why do you think Craig is the right guy to wrap up the season behind the bench?
Well, I think Craig's a good coach, and it hasn't gone well. There's lots of criticism, and rightly so, for the manager. There's lots of criticism for all of us, and so those are things that we all get evaluated at the end of the season. And there's things that I think all of us will look back on, management, coaches, players included, of things we could have done better, should have done better, ways to improve. So that's, that autopsy will occur. But at this particular time, I don't think there's, Craig is going to be the coach. He's going to remain the coach. And at the appropriate time, we all sit down and talk about ways that we can improve and do a better job.
I want to ask you, before we get you out of here, about Austin, where he currently stands. His stats have been, highlighted because of who he is and how great of a player he is. He hasn't scored in 10 games. I think he's got 1 goal in his last 14. Where do you stand on, his play, how he's looking, and I'm sure you have all the faith in the world that he'll return to, the superstar stats that he's had in the past. But I don't want to speak for you on that. I guess you can answer that. But what gives you faith that, the statistical numbers Austin's putting up this year are an outlier and he'll return to the player he was a couple of years ago?
Well, I know a lot gets paid. Attention gets paid to the production, and rightly so. I understand that. I think Austin, he does a lot more than just score, but he is, in my mind, one of, if not the most prolific goal scorers of his era. So sometimes it hasn't gone in for him. There's a responsibility on myself and the team to get players around him to assist him. And so that's my responsibility. That's the team's responsibility to help him. He's gone through a tough stretch. He's getting lots of chances. A few more pucks have gone in. Nobody's talking about the production. His defensive play, you saw it at the Olympics. It gets talked about. I get it. He's the captain of our team. He's the face of our franchise. He's one of the top players in the league. He gets the attention he gets, but I don't think he gets enough credit for all the other things that he does. But a big part of what Austin does and has done better than most in the league is score goals. It hasn't gone in for him recently, and he knows it. He wants them to go in. He wants to be productive, but it's also on us to help him and get players and a cast around him to assist him. So that's how I look at it. I have all the faith in the world, and no hesitation to think that Austin's not going to be an elite player moving forward. He's just, in my opinion, entering the prime of his career. He's the leader of our team. We saw it on the world stage in the Olympics. Austin's a top player. So players go through slumps. Players go through times when it's not going in the net. We continue to work with them, but more so we've got to continue to find ways to support them and get players around them that can help them.
Always appreciate you finding time for us, Brad. I know it's been a busy day, busy couple of weeks, so we appreciate that, and we'll do it again down the road. Thank you for this.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Brad Treliving. Yeah, that's I think is a conversation that a lot of people are having. Like, how do you Matthew's got to do certain things on his own, clearly.
Right.
But also, you need to help him. You need to build around him. And, it's going to be it's going to be an evergreen topic. Like, he's such a prominent figure in the history of the club.
Right.
He's the face of the team. He's the captain. He's such a beloved player. You want him to have success. You want the team to have success. And that answer would indicate, like, the plan is not deviated. It's like, we're still building around this guy, and this is our guy.
That's your guy. Willie's your guy. Now you got to figure out how to build around them and retool or whatever. There's going to be some deck chairs you got to move around, but that's what Treliving gets paid to do.
Yeah,
so.
And I would be shocked if the Leafs' plan changed between now and the summer. Like, I think their commitment to Matthews will be very clear. I would think. I guess it'll be on Austin to make that determination. Is it reciprocated?
Exactly.
And if it is, hey, it may go beyond the expiration of this current deal.
Right.
Can't guarantee it's going to happen in the next 2 years, but do you want to be a Leaf for life? If so, let's try to make it work in the next 12.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It might take some heavy lifting, but will it be worth the wait? I guess he can only answer that.
Exactly.
And we'll find out when we find out. All right, Best Bets coming up. We'll recap a busy afternoon. OverDrive continues up on YouTube Live.
Back to Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
Mailed in Friday, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. A fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. Some food was hanging around here earlier, but it disappeared quickly.
Well, did you see the goons that were hanging around here?
Yes. Yes.
There's no garbage out there anymore. That's just a garbage dump.
It's
just
turned into a
food out
garbage dump right outside of our studio.
Just food everywhere. Shrapnel.
There were like 100 wings out there, and they lasted less than an hour. Like literally less than an hour.
I don't know who. What we need is a closed caption camera to pick that up, to see how many drive-bys. Al's brother.
Oh, he came in early, is my understanding.
And he might have done some work.
Al's brother called in the order and said, what time do I need to be there?
Exactly.
And Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. So you look at the NHL board tonight. It's always weird that you have all the trade deadline stuff.
That's the thing. That's distracting. These guys got to play tonight.
Colorado plays Dallas tonight. That's a big game.
Yeah, really good powerhouse game.
You're getting plus money with Dallas.
Lots of goals, though?
I'm not going to touch the total, but I'm going to take plus money on Dallas at home. Like, I know they've won all these games in a row.
10 in a row.
That injury issues and yet and Colorado's Colorado, but you give me plus money on a team like Dallas.
Take it.
I'm taking it. Best Bets powered by FanDuel. All right, there you go. What day is it today? Friday? I don't even know. Yeah, I guess we're going into the weekend. Okay.
Wow.
Good stuff. That's how crazy today is.
Honest to God, this week has been a blur.
Yeah.
And it's been busy.
Next week, we reset, get back to normal scheduled programming.
Hockey, some Jays.
Yes. Grapefruit League, everything.
Basketball.
Coming off the Arnie Palmer, the players next week. Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web, and up on YouTube Live. Every show up on TSN's YouTube channel. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. Actually, we're back Monday at 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.